horses in the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and they put them up for auction. Wild horses on September the 28th, and we're happy to say all of them were purchased and none went to slaughter. They all went to good homes. And joining us right now is Tandra. We're trying to find out a little bit about the background, how we train some of these wild horses. And Tandra, thank you for joining us here on KFGO.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the Dreamcatchers stable in Hazen. What's the function there? What do you do there?
Well, at Dreamcatcher Stable, we mostly run a training barn. So we take in horses to start to finish, horses that, from all disciplines and whatnot. And so it's a pretty interesting job.
When you say all disciplines, are there some real stinkers out there that people bring in that want trained?
Yes, that's for sure. I mean, we take in some very calm horses and whatnot, but as for disciplines, we do English riding, Western riding, and that state of discipline. But, for, horse training wise, there's some horses that are easy, calm to work with. Some, test your patience a little bit more than others, but, it's great.
When you first heard about this roundup at Theodore Roosevelt, what were your first thoughts? I mean, are these horses going to be, they're going to be auctioned off, but were you worried about who they're going to be auctioned off to?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of a specialty sale because, the last time they had this sale was 4 years ago. So it was kind of like, are people really interested or whatnot? But I think, social media, Facebook and whatnot really helps promote and, get these people to the sale from all over the U.S., which is pretty neat because, they're not the easiest horses to work with. They're born wild. Their instincts are, if something is coming at us, we got to run. So, they're not used to the human contact like our, domesticated horses are.
Is that a rarity, by the way, the rare horse? Are there a lot of them in western North Dakota?
There are not a lot. So it takes a special kind of person, someone with a lot of patience, to take on that kind of horse. And patience and love, that's really all that, is required for that.
Mm-hmm. So the last roundup was four years ago, you mentioned.
Yep.
How do they go about it? Is it like the old Western days and just drive them into a pen and there you go? Or?
Yep, they round them up, as far as I know, with helicopters, bring them in, and then they decide which horses are going to stay and which horses are going to leave. And the horses that do leave to go, to be auctioned off, let's say they don't really bring a price or not sell, they can't be returned to the park because, if you take a horse, that has been wild and bring them in, even to an auction house that they're getting introduced to all these, not so much diseases, but different bacteria and things that they're not used to.
Mm-hmm. Tandra Klein, our guest here tonight on KFGO, Dreamcatcher Stable in Hazen. We're going to talk about some of these wild horses that she actually has in her training facility right now and working on those horses. By the way, do you ever ride out there and look at these horses out in their natural habitat? What kind of sight is that?
It's actually quite remarkable. Horses that are born and raised out there on the terrain, they're some of the most sure-footed horses, and I think that's why people want them too. They have to survive, so they have to know where their legs are all, 100% of the time.
So you mean like potholes, that type of thing? Do they do more climbing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, all the above. They have to know, is there a hole that I'm going to step in and break my leg? Horses, a broken leg isn't going to survive very long. Or, they got to climb up and down these bluffs, and they're strong horses. They're going to be wild.
I have this picture in my mind when you say wild horses, of horses that will, rear up and start kicking at you with your front hooves. Is that an urban legend or is that true?
Well, the thing is, with horses that are born wild, that their first instinct, if something is coming towards them or something moves, is that they're going to run away. Their first thing that they're going to do is they're going to flee. But if they're backed into a corner and there's no way out and they can't jump over you, can't jump around you, and they feel threatened, they probably will. That's why, the person that adopted or bought one, really has to know what they're doing because, they're still animals. They can still hurt us.
Now, did you purchase yourself or did you buy for someone? I forget how that went.
I had bought 3 horses for clients, and my clients are located out in eastern Montana. So they just said, we trust you, go pick out some great horses for us. And really they just wanted to, own a piece of history. I think that's what a lot of people did when they went to this sale. That it's just kind of not so much a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it's something that's pretty cool to own, to say that I bought a wild horse and look what I did with it now. And look where I've come.
So they're obviously that then, so there's nothing as dastardly plans as you will. Because everybody, we've all heard the story about meat packing plants and glue and all that kind of stuff. But you're always confident when you do something like this that these people are legit, then, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. One of them has been my client for over a year, sending me horses to training in the past and whatnot, and take the utmost care of their horses. So there's never any worry in the back of my mind. I mean, give them the best care possible.
Now, how many horses were in the auction again?
103 were sold.
103 were sold, but the prices were very variable. What? I mean, it went from just 100 or 150 to almost 3,000, right?
Yep, that's correct. And, like I said before, it's a specialty sale. So, I mean, some people were coming in and, had a certain horse picked out. They had some pictures of the horses that they were assuming were going to be in the roundup. They had it on Facebook. And so, I mean, they were kind of coming prepared. And before the sale, the day before and the day of, you could view them. So people kind of picked out their horses. There was buyers that wanted weanlings only because they were the easiest to train, and weanlings, are horses that are born this year. But then there was also something that kind of shocked me, 3-year-old mares that were being sold, but the people were getting the 2-for-1 package because the mares were bred this spring, so they were getting a foal also with this other horse.
Oh, is that the higher priced ones then, the 2,800 we were talking about?
No, the $28,000 one, that was actually a weanling. And it was probably the best put together horse there. I mean, conformation-wise, it was like a great horse. I didn't know who bought it personally, but, I mean, it was a nice-looking horse, that's for sure.
Well, Tandra Klein is our guest. When we come back, I want to talk to you about, you've got some in your stable right now. You are doing some training. I want to know how this project is going and what you have to do. And I also want to talk about that interesting group that purchased several of the horses from out on the East Coast. Can we do that when we come back?
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. You're listening to Nighttime Live right here on the Mighty 790 KFGO.